Hi, I'm Megan.
I'm Colin, and this is Pet Sitter Confessional,
an open and honest discussion about life as a pet sitter.
Brought to you by Time to Pet and Pet Sitters International. Franchising is always a very hot topic in the pet industry, and whether it's the right move for you, whether to start one or to go into a franchising opportunity. So today we're really excited to have Carmen Chavez de Hesse on to talk about what it's like to franchise a pet sitting business. As the owner of Slinky Cat at home, she cares for cats alongside with her daughter. And she also has a lot to share about what it's like leading and leaving a legacy business. So let's get started.
Well, I'm so happy to be here, Colin. Thank you very much. And hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in today. I'm Carmen Chávez de Hesse, the owner of Slinky Cat at Home. We're a cat-centric pet sitting service located in the North County coastal areas of San Diego. And for the past 2 years, we've been providing peace of mind to every kitty in our care, and recognize that that's a really big responsibility and one that we want to make a positive experience for not just our cats, but the humans that love them as well.
How did you get started 2 years ago?
So I've worked a lot in the pet space, a lot through franchising, doggy daycare, grooming, retail, but I've always had a preference for felines. And so knowing what I do about the pet industry, I was really gravitating towards a cat niche, cat-centric business, because I know the financial numbers in the pet industry, according to the American Pet Products Association, we're nearing $80 billion in this industry. And, pet sitting and pet services is one of the fastest growing sectors for the last several years. So I knew that I could try to make something happen. That was really the first reason. The second reason, like many business owners, I had an enormous pain point of trying to find loving cat care to meet my needs as a cat owner when we traveled to Peru to see family for sometimes 30 days or longer. So I have 2 kitties, one that would eat plastic and she could never stay home alone. She was a social eater. And then I have another kitty who lost 5 pounds in 2 weeks at a boarding facility that really didn't have a clue. So I see myself as both of my potential clients. Slinky Cat at Home provides drop-in kitty care service in other people's homes, but eventually we do want to grow into a cat hotel and perhaps a potential franchise.
Now, how did those experiences that you had with your 2 cats influence how you run and operate your business?
It was everything to me because the first boarding experience I had for Princess is a really cute little cat hotel in someone's home here. And he's very eclectic. He has a really cool catio, a cat tree that's roped and bird TV going on, and everything's red and black. And it's just a really great environment for the cats. And he would communicate to us and tell us funny stories. Like he should write a book. Like, Princess is a fine dame, but she's here with her boyfriend, Casanova, today. And it just was a really feel-good feeling. And she thrived in that environment. Mm-hmm. A couple years later, when we took her to a different boarding place, I was like, how's she been? And I didn't get any kind of communication like that. They told me she wasn't spilling her water. And then when I went back, they said, oh, she's the messiest cat we've ever had. And I was like, I don't want to hear that, And then with Waffles, when he lost weight, they actually gave me back the wrong food. And so I was just like, we can do this better. And coming from a background, in animal behavior and as a trainer years ago, I just felt really in tune to cats. And I had a cat for 19 years that was my everything that I took to Peru with me. And I remember coming home and just putting our heads together and go, let's think about our day or let's talk about this. And so cats have a very different relationship with people. It's very different than dogs. It just is in different ways. But I just felt that we could really bring some of what I needed to our clients' experience, because I don't believe cats hide or fearful. I believe they go to their safe spot and we need to earn their trust. And that's what we focus on when I say peace of mind. If the kitties have peace of mind, then I will have peace of mind as an owner. My clients will have peace of mind if they know that their cats are not stressed.
Yeah, being on both sides of that coin, right? You're able to experience and know, okay, I had this experience. How do I make sure either that that doesn't happen for my clients, or how do I make it so that I can do that same thing? Like, it really does give you a great perspective whenever you've experienced both of those things.
It does. It does. And I think we're doing a good job of doing that. I really do believe that we're doing a good job. And, I love our clients, and I had an exercise recently to picture my ideal clients, and it was every cat coming in, not the owners. And I was laughing, but when you really went in deeper and looked at it, our ideal cats were our ideal clients. And they shared the same values and the same love of cats that we do. And it's not to say we don't ever have an occasional dog,
Sure.
a slinky doggy, because we all know puppies can rule, but, and we speak dog too, but, between myself and the team that I'm building, we really are cat fanatics.
Yeah. Walk us through that process of defining your ideal client, because I love that idea, and I don't think many business owners do that enough. So what was the impetus for that, and what did that look like?
So our ideal clients. So when I started this business, and again, I come from, franchising background that we'll talk about, but when I started this business, the business models that I like have tremendous value, but they're almost like industry changers and shifters. So it was important to me to have like a flat fee service is what I originally wanted. So for up to 2 kitties, it was just one fee. And my fee is higher than others in my area. But why I bring that in is because for me, our ideal clients have money. They're invested in their animals. We don't discount our second, third, or fourth, or fifth visits. We are a flat fee for the amount of time that we're there. And we're very specific on the value that we're going to bring during that time. And I think our ideal clients appreciate that. And so obviously their money's not an issue for them. Their cats are their everything in many cases. In many cases, I have houses where you'd want to live as a cat for sure. I mean, every corner. I have one, even my team member, I think she has 13 cat trees now. We have cat rooms set up. We have cat wheels. It's a different client. And so these kitties, they're thriving. They're absolutely thriving. And then our job is to come in and make sure they stay at peace and be enriched and get plenty of activity while we're there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like that idea of going, okay, like, how can I communicate my services to my ideal client? Well, one of those, as you did, was through pricing. Like, that is a great way to communicate to that. And you already know, like, I want people who are absolutely positively head over heels in love and passionate for their cats, because you know that they're going to be the best ones that you want to work for.
Yes, exactly. And they are, and we all know that. I mean, I've only ever had anybody kind of challenge our pricing maybe twice, and once recently, but she also interviewed 5 other pet sitters. So, she was just not going to be an ideal fit. And it's okay to recognize that and acknowledge that. And I truly believe, and I know most of the other pet sitters, I love to network with everybody in our community. And I don't look at it as any sort of a competition or anything. There are enough animals to go around. There just are.
There's a lot.
Yeah. And there's a pet sitter for everybody. And if I'm not the right one for them, that's fine too.
Yeah, that's good to keep in mind. Now, I know you also work with your daughter in your business. So what's that like?
Oh my God. I'm so glad you asked this, because my daughter's name is Marina. She goes by Mimi. And, my vision when we launched Slinky Cat at Home was to create a legacy business for her. And whether or not she works in it years down the road, this is my chance to create a legacy business for her. I envisioned her and her friends, supporting me as they're growing older and before they go to college. She's 14 now, and I'm fortunate that she still wants to work with me. She's loved by all of our human clients and adored by the cats, and she's often considered a cat whisperer. Over the past really 3 years, when we first started Moonlight Cat Sitting, before I formed the business, she's learned so much about fostering cats. I volunteer at our local NICU or kitten nursery, so she knows all those stories, studying cat behavior, observing the cat personalities, all of it she's been a part of, as well as learning how to start and grow a business. And she's gotten a lot of that through my consulting too, but that's really, really fun to see. And we actually do an annual trip every year for the last 4 years to CatCon, which is like Comic-Con for cat people.
That's awesome. That's really cool. I love hearing how you're getting her involved and that idea of a legacy business, something that's going to outlive yourself, and to be able to work on that now with your daughter and to give to her moving forward. Like, that's just a wonderful idea.
And I think and we'll talk about it in franchising, but it's really, we all want to grow and get our businesses to the point where they can run without us, sort of thing. And, and that's what I mean, because, her passion might be in fashion design. I already know it's in a creative space. And it might not always be cats, but for the last, all of her life that we've had cats, but for the last, 4 to 5 years, it's been all about the businesses that I've been working in, the doggy daycare, the grooming, our own business with kitties and fostering, because fostering was just one step closer to reaching our goal and really getting to learn about, cats and nurturing the next generation of cats. We really want to be a part of that.
Yeah, it sounds like this idea of a legacy business is a lot more than just the physical business that you have, but the ideas, the concepts, the experiences that you take from being involved in it and passing it on to others.
Yeah, and you have to have a passion for it. Yeah. We all know that. They say, it's not like, you're working if you're really in love with what you're doing, but you have to I'm an operations person at heart. So franchising is very much about systems and operations. And so I try to, my motto is discipline systems breed freedom. And so I really try to structure things like that so that at some point it can run on its own. But I do have to say, and a lot of pet sitters can relate to this, I am happiest when I'm sitting next to that cat. I love every single one of them. I love looking at what they're doing, trying to anticipate it. So I need to capture my own self in that when I start to duplicate what I do in that space and how I'm going to stay connected to the cats that I love.
Yeah, because that's what most of us get in the business for, is to have those connections, have those moments. And it's really like, as stressful as many days can be when you're just being with the animal, it's really therapeutic a lot of the time of just being able to sit and enjoy their company and know that you are helping them.
Yeah. I actually blogged. I did a mindfulness blog, what we can learn about mindfulness from our cats. Because there's so much there when you really get in tune with them. They're crazy. I'm not crazy.
Not a crazy cat lady. Okay, nobody said it.
I'm not. No, actually one of our Instagrams is catlady.notcrazy. But that could go a whole different way. That could be a whole nother business.
Okay. That's awesome. So, thinking about these characteristics and what you look for in yourself and what you're training your daughter on and the people on your team, what would you say makes an awesome cat sitter?
Yeah, so I'm sure I said it. I mean, must love cats, but they must love the humans that love cats. And I don't know how it is in the dog world of pet sitting. I'm sure there's some people that give quite a few instructions. I mean, we have clients that provide us with 15 pages of instructions and maybe only 2 were related to the home. But, cats are special diets, supplements, nutrients, a lot of the in-home kitty care are older kitties. And so, we really have to have somebody that can pay attention to detail. And for me, I have learned that the softer you can speak to kitties, the better they respond. And it's a peaceful nature. And I'm a huge proponent of the fear-free philosophy and mindset in pet sitting in general. But the cat sitters that I'll look to hire have to also share these values with me.
It is a different space. I know for some, when we are taking care of dogs, sometimes you get the owners who they break out the pamphlet, right? They break out the 3-ring binder and they go, here you go. I love those clients. We also get the clients who drop off their dogs and it's just a simple feed them about this much, and they use their fingers, to give you a measurement, and they walk away, and you're like, oh, okay, sure.
Yeah.
It is a different space. And I've even noticed an increase nationally about people moving into cat sitting and cat care specifically. So why is there a need, or talk about that change in the need for cat sitters?
Yeah, well, obviously because cats are going to dominate the world soon, but I'm right? And if that's not the reason, then maybe all of our dog lovers should cover their ears, but especially the pet sitters. But there are more cats than dogs in U.S. households, and this is a stat from the American Pet Products Association. And I think it's a lot of reasons because, most households that have cats might have more than one cat. I did get a call from one person that had 8 cats, but that's extreme. I mean, I would think most of my clients have between 2 to 3 cats. And so I think there's a difference awareness coming up about cats in general. I was also looking at the number of cats entering San Diego market. We're a warmer climate. Our San Diego Humane Society Kitten Nursery takes care of about 3,500 kittens under the age of 4 weeks old every kitten season.
Wow.
And then that's not even counting the ones that are trapped and come into the fostering realm, or our cat cafes that are adopting out hundreds of cats, especially during COVID. So there's a lot of cats entering the San Diego market at this time. And if you look at some of your local shelters, you might be surprised to see that the adoption rates, when they put out their stats, are actually higher for cats than dogs. So it's the right time to get into the cat industry. And lots of people say there's riches and niches, and I'm, kind of banking on that. But I also, like I said, this is a passion business for me. But then there's misconceptions. We talked about the stigma of the cat lady, crazy cat lady, and there's actually a national holiday to try to remove that stigma. And the cat ladies and the cat daddies, who are super popular out there right now, want to kind of change it. People perceive cats as being aloof, independent, self-sufficient, but in reality, they are creatures of habit and routine. And when you're not there, everything goes haywire. And we used to offer overnights. I don't want to do them anymore because the cats were freaking out. They look at us and they go, well, you're not our nighttime routine. What the heck are you doing here in my space? And we had one kitty that ran on the wheel the whole night. And I was like, she was just she was stressed. Yeah. So we'll go 4 or 5 times a day if our clients need us to. But I don't really think that we need to be there overnight. And like I said, people say, you'll never see our kitty, she'll hide. Well, we have to see your kitty. We need eyes on your kitty at every visit. And she's not hiding. She's in her safe place. That's where she feels the most safe. So we tend to shelter in place. And we get great results by doing that. But again, we're trying to help support a changing perception about cats. My Waffles rides in a shark stroller, a toddler stroller. I take him, he goes to the beach for sunset. He cruises Michael's and Petco all the time. We get kicked out of Vaughn's, but he's just a really cool cat that is portable. And we've had cats on leashes at the park before. And I think that we're going to start seeing more of that as people start to recognize that they're not only... They have a lot of catitude, don't get me wrong, and they do like their sleep time and things like that, but they're highly trainable. And they need to be actively engaged mentally, which is the term of enrichment. And you'll see more puzzle feeders coming on the market and things like that too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I like that. It's 2 things that you said there. It's just A, there's just more of them, and B, it sounds like owners are becoming increasingly aware that that their cats have more needs that need to be met than are currently doing that, and they're turning and trying to take care of them more in a better way.
Yes, and they live a long time. My Himalayan was 19. And, it's sad this year. I'll have to do it in memoriam because of our cats that have transitioned, but that's a long time. And again, I'm not trying to compare the dog versus cat relationship because they're both beautiful. They represent unconditional love and fulfillment and joy and everything good in this world, right? But cats live for 19 years. So when the cat passes, as does a dog, there's a huge break in routine for that person. And it's pretty tough.
Have you heard about Time to Pet? Chris-Ann from Raining Cats and Dogs has this to say.
Becoming a Time to Pet client has been a game changer for us. We can give our pet services clients real-time, cloud-based information they never imagined they'd be interested in. And most importantly, to me personally, I can better manage my company and look forward to more. And not a small thing, Time to Pet is responsive to my requests for new features and modifications to existing ones.
If you are looking for new pet sitting software for your business, give Time to Pet a try. Listeners of Pet Sitter Confessional get 50% off their first 3 months when they sign up at timetopet.com/confessional. You've mentioned COVID a couple times, so I did want to touch on that. How has COVID been for you during?
Oh my goodness, the things we've learned, what we're grateful for. Like every pet sitter, I saw down the pipeline early March. We had a National Product Expo in Disneyland of 80,000 attendees from all over the world. And we had clients going to that expo, and it was canceled 2 days before the event. And so we started taking cancellations early, and I knew we were in trouble. And then I was like, so really, pet sitters, we ought to be classified in the travel industry, not the pet industry. And like everybody else, it was kind of this frenetic anxiety to pivot. And we did walk, we do have some dog walking, but we did walk some dogs of first responders and tried to do concierge and support our local retirement communities and things like that. But it was minimal. And then my full-time job became trying to become a quick learner on the PPEP, all the financial support for small businesses and solopreneurs and the EIDL SBA loans. And I hired an HR consultant for my 2 employees because thankfully I became an employer of November last year. And so I did reduced hours for my employees, but they were able to get support because I had made that step to become an employer. And then the EIDL, I didn't get any support for my business financially until July. My first one was a $250 grant from a local founding company. And I was elated. I was like, yes, marketing a postcard. I was so excited for that $250. And then I did get an EIDL loan late July that I have not spent. I'm sitting on it because I don't know what the next few months will hold. But those are opportunities that I'm grateful for because as a small business owner, we would have never had the opportunity to have access to some of these funds and financial relief, no matter how big or how small. And so I'm very grateful for that. And then lastly, we started coming back a little bit Memorial Day. July ended up being bigger than last year, which I was shocked, but it's really a subset of clients who are traveling locally. They go to their boat, on weekend trips, and they've really kept us going. But in July, I felt for 1,000 reasons gratitude that my business was validated and that we were going to pounce back just fine.
Yeah, you talk about having to come an immediate expert on the alphabet soup of help or whatever it was. It was really scary and unsure, but you went through it, and now if you dug into numbers and you really understood the business, it's like that's an awesome footing to be on moving forward.
It's a great footage, and I look at it even, did I really need the loan? Maybe not, but how else can you build credit worthiness with the SBA? And same with the Founders First that gave me the $250 grant. They're people that I can pitch, our future franchise opportunity to them. And that feels great. And actually the Founders First was really looking for moms and daughters in entrepreneurship.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was
that's awesome.
Ironically called the Kitty Fund. So that might have helped a little bit.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's like I'm seeing all these stars aligning.
Yeah, right. But I do have to say that for me, it was really important that my clients knew that we were going to follow all the CDC guidelines, that we were here to support them, and most importantly, we were going to remain flexible to meet their travel needs in the uncertain times. And we waived all of our cancellation early return fees through the end of the year. And I'm usually really flexible on that kind of stuff anyways. I'm not going to get hung up on it, but things happen. Plans change, and they have changed a lot. And I only had one situation where I had to refuse to see a client when they came back from Brazil. Unfortunately, his mother was sick and she passed. And we specialize in long-term kitty care too. And this was a long-term client. We had the kitties for more than a few months. And, and that was kind of hard. His kitty had a new diet. And so I videoed my whole process for him, but I had to make sure that I'm keeping my family safe as well. And so we just follow all the protocols, but in the end, I think we're all going to be just fine.
Yeah. So how is business right now, and what does it look like moving forward?
So again, my long-term clients really help my business. We dropped in September, like most Septembers. October is shaping up pretty well. I have Thanksgiving coming in, but I'm really unsure. And I think the whole country is unsure and uncertain. And until we get through the election, and California is on, potential lockdown today, actually, again. So we're all trying to juggle it. We're trying to juggle the homeschooling, distance learning, and all of that. So I think the only thing any of us can do is to remain flexible and to acknowledge that difficult situations that might come up, whether it's us or our clients, is just all part of this exterior world that we're in right now. And we have to give ourselves grace, and we have to give our clients grace when it's needed.
That is so important, realizing that all of the stuff going on outside that's outside your control, right? Look to what you can influence, and it starts with giving yourself bucket loads of grace every single day and understanding for what's going on.
Yes. And my employees are wonderful, and they are with me through feast or famine. And if I need a day off, I have them to come in and support me for that. But for the most part, I'm running it all right now.
You've mentioned it a couple of times, and I did want to talk about franchising with you because you have a background in franchising. It's something you focus on currently. So what is, maybe explain your background in franchising a little bit more.
Sure. So I've worked in the franchising and multi-unit operations for close to 20 years. And I love it because a lot of times it's all about new business and it's about growth. So I'm probably a growth strategist through my other consulting business, which is called Echo Growth Strategies. But I really help shorten the learning curve and guide my clients through the franchise process by teaching them the best practices in franchising. And coming from a strong operational background as a director of operational for a really large franchise organization here in San Diego, actually we're a holding company of several different brands. I try to inject that operational perspective to help companies that want to enter the world of franchise gain a really strong foundation operationally, systematically, and also to come out with a fair offering, which is called the franchise disclosure document. So that's really how I've kind of niched that. I've also helped people looking to buy a franchise with a non-biased opinion about that franchise disclosure document, because they say we speak our own language in franchising. You speak franchising once you get into it. And it's not always easy to understand. So if I can come in and just kind of break it down for people, it really helps.
Yeah. And I think one of those initial questions that come up about, why would I start a franchise versus just another location or a new location in an area?
Yeah, and that's a really good question. The very short version is you don't want to franchise unless you already have 2 or 3 locations. So they're both business models towards growth, right? So I think especially if we're talking to pet sitters and they want to grow, and, I could look at San Diego, we have 38 zip codes. So would I try to look at the demographics within each zip code and try to grow that way? Or am I going to look at a certain territory with maybe a 10-mile radius and I'm going to look at it that way? So I think the most important thing for anybody wanting to grow, and you can grow corporately while you're franchising. I want to make sure people know that. Just because you're franchising doesn't mean you can't have 5 or 6 of your own locations, no matter what they be. You can still do both. So, but you have to be really clear and concise about what those business entities look like, and make sure that if you're growing into another territory or you want to align with somebody in another territory, that it's running as its own entity, because that's going to tell you whether or not a franchise is going to work. You have to have proof of concept for a franchise to work.
I know another distinction that there is this franchising versus licensing. So what is that distinction?
Yeah. So like I said, and there would be one other thing I would say about the franchising before we go on to that point, is that franchising as a business model also allows entrepreneurs to grow with other like-minded entrepreneurs and investors. So you're growing with other people's capital. So that's a real attraction to franchising, because you're able to scale that way.
Okay.
Now, stepping back to the franchising versus licensing, I'm so glad you asked this, because it's often confused. And I do have licensing clients as well as franchise clients. And I do need to disclaim, I'm not an attorney. I'm not a CPA. I'm none of that. I'm an operational consultant and a growth strategist. Licensing, and where the concern comes in, is if franchising is highly regulated industry and legally. And lots of times, if you have a license that really looks like a franchise, you can be deemed, especially in the state of California, as an inadvertent franchise. So to have a franchise, you have 3 things going on. You have a strong brand and a national trademark. You have detailed systems and processes, which is your secret sauce, usually in an operations manual. And you still want to keep a lot of the control over how somebody's going to run that business. And you do that in exchange for your coaching and your support of the network and your marketing, all in exchange for the ongoing royalties and fees. Licensing really doesn't work that way. It's a lot less expensive, but licensing, you're virtually giving up control. So right away, if you're somebody that wants to know, like I would never license Slinky Cat because I want to know that everybody's doing cat care the Slinky Cat way. So licensing is already off the table for me. So licensing works if you have a train the trainer model. It might work for, trainers, dog trainers, probably more than pet sitting, but it's not really going to work for pet sitters, because you can vet them and you can still train them. You might give them a business in a box sort of thing at a different level, but then licensees are pretty much on their own. And you might have a renewal or something in there. But again, you need to talk to a franchise attorney to make sure your licensing agreement doesn't say franchise all over it.
Yeah, I think, that distinction of control, because I think of, when I think of licensing, someone may license the name effectively to put it on a billboard or to put it on a van, but they operationally, as you mentioned, like they're completely different and they're just using the name. But if you want more control, more repeatability of processes and procedures, it sounds like franchising is really that's that distinction.
Franchising is the way to go. And it's not cheap. It's not cheap at all. Well, but it's the way to go.
So on that, when we're talking about cheap, not cheap, like how much money, like what is that cost for franchising?
So any good consultant or franchise attorney is going to tell you that you're going to need upwards of $250,000 in order to launch as a franchise. So, and I really caution on this one, especially, as I've grown and I've helped different brands launch into the world of franchising, because any business, you don't want to come in underfunded, whether you're trying to grow to a second location. Your second location is more important than your first one. You got everything on the line. So you want to make sure that it's successful, but you can't come in underfunded. And I think, pet sitting, we can come in on a pretty low initial investment investment to really start to get things going. You still need to invest in the marketing and in the systems and everything that you're doing as you're growing. But as a franchisor, I think what people don't understand, this is a whole separate business. So now you're going to have XYZ Pet Sitting LLC, and now you're going to have XYZ Pets Franchising LLC or corporation. It's a whole nother business. So the thought that franchising is just going to bring reoccurring revenue through royalties is a huge misconception. Your learning curve to learn the world of franchising is going to be really steep and very costly, because you're going to fall in love with attorneys. You're going to have HR attorneys. You're going to have trademark attorneys. You're going to have a business attorney for the corporation, not to be confused with a franchise attorney. You've got to have someone. You can't have a business attorney doing your franchise docs. It's just never going to work. It's never going to work.
So that was my question about what that money goes towards. And it sounds like it goes to a lot of attorneys.
Yeah, it's a highly regulated industry, and it's overseen by the Federal Trade Commission, or the FTC. I think one of the beauties of franchising, though, I don't want to scare people off in this either, but it's one of the only industries where a potential business owner can evaluate apples to apples, no matter what the business offering is or what industry it is. So I could be looking at a yoga studio versus a doggy daycare, which actually are almost identical business models. But I could be looking at a franchise in either one of those spaces. And through the franchise disclosure document, which is the FDD, you can compare apples to apples on those two businesses. So the FDD is comprised of like 23 exhibits or chapters that tell you who the people are behind the brand, who the executives are, if they've ever had any litigation, how much your franchise fee is going to cost, what's the initial investment to open a location, an entity, a brick and mortar, whatever that might be, what the requirements are between the parties, the obligations, what your training is going to look like. It goes, what your territory is. It goes through everything. And it even includes a copy of your sale agreement, what you'd be signing in your franchise agreement, and a copy of the table of contents of the operations manual, which is usually 350 to 500 pages, depending on the brand. And so that initial investment in franchising goes towards the formation of that, as well as your strategic analysis to get it launched, your operations manual, which could cost upwards of $20,000 alone. And not to mention website, PR, marketing, everything to get ready to sell franchises.
Sounds like a lot of upfront work, right? Getting all your ducks in a row, getting everything lined up. So if someone's interested in that, what are some of their first few steps that they should take to put themselves on the right path?
Yeah, so I think they need to start looking at their flagship location as if it was a franchise. So how detailed are their systems? When I helped the pet groomers launch into the world of franchising, they didn't have an operations manual. I went around their salon and I took pictures of sticky notes with their systems and processes were everywhere. We started from scratch. They had it all somewhere on their warboard in their salon or whatnot. But you really need to start looking at it as how is this vehicle operating? And furthermore, how am I going to duplicate myself so that I can step away from this business to run the franchise business? And if I can't run the franchise business, I need to up my budget to hire either a fractional consultant or somebody in franchising to take those reins. But it's running your business. You have to duplicate your business and you have to duplicate yourself. In order to franchise. So that's really going to come to, we do like a corporate readiness evaluation. And it's a questionnaire, and we really look at who would be leading the ship. How is the division of responsibilities? Where are the gaps in my team? How would we offer support? Looking at if it's a space, franchising is going to tell you, what color are the baseboards, what are the initial investment in office supplies. I mean, you're going to detail all of that, because franchising, I can't say people are buying a business in a box in franchising. They're buying the right to hopefully duplicate somebody else's already successful business.
Yeah.
But the success or failure of a franchise is going to be highly dependent on the entrepreneurs coming in to run that location. And they're not reinventing the wheel. They're paying a lot of money through franchise fees to be able to have all these systems offered to them. So you need to have that dialed in. And there's a lot that people can do tomorrow to start preparing for it.
Yeah, it sounds like just start writing things down that you do, right? And that you would want replicated.
Exactly. And the best opportunity to do that is in a second location.
Right. Because
if you can shadow your own opening of a second location, you're taking note, how long did it take me to secure the lease? If it's a brick and mortar, if it was pet sitting, you were going from San Diego County to Orange County, how long did it take to get the first client, to ramp up the business, to map the territories? You're looking at it from that sort of mindset. And the other thing that you really need to know before you franchise is your numbers. And in franchising, it's not like buying a business. You're not going to give somebody your P&L. You're giving them an opportunity to have potential success doing business like you have. But you still need to know what's that going to look like. So if I walk into a grooming salon, I would say, so how many visits did you do last month? And they'll tell me, and then I'll say, okay, then I figure out what I think the average cost of a groom is, and I know about how much money they're grossing a month. It can be as simple as that. But when you franchise, you really need to do financial projections towards what a franchise could earn, when their break even is, what your key performance indicators are. You need to do that for a potential franchise. And then you need to also do it for the franchise or company.
Giving some idea of, because you're giving them your secret sauce, that operations manual, saying, if you implement this and you implement it well, this is what you should expect to see, or, could be coming on the back end.
Yes, but I'm never going to promise you that.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
no promises.
It's going to be highly dependent on your ability as a franchisee and your coachability. If you're not somebody that's coachable, likewise, if you're a franchisor that really wants to have excessive control, franchising is not for you. Because there's still some sort of autonomy between the parties, between the franchisor and the franchisee. You want them to be independent, because the contract says that they're an independent business owner, but yet you want them to have some level of coachability to follow your procedures. It doesn't mean that if you have a franchisee who's a really good entrepreneur, he can't bring some best practices to help grow the whole network in franchising. That happens a lot. But if you can't, coach somebody right out of the gate for that, and it's going to be really hard in that relationship. Likewise, if you want to just pick up the phone and say, hey, you're not doing what I said you were supposed to do, you don't really have a lot of authority in franchising to have the conversation that way.
What's the process look like to actually getting a franchise implemented?
Yeah, so the whole process, I want to be clear, can take several months. Just from the legality standpoint of formulating everything. But when you talk about the actual process, I like to go back and credit my good friend, Lonnie Helgerson. He wrote a book called 5 Pennies. It's the 10 rules to successfully build a franchise. It's a valuable book for anybody looking to enter the world of franchising. When he wrote it, 5 pennies was really the value of the royalty, because it used to be 5% royalty. It's closer to 6 or 7% now, plus marketing fees and other things. But it's called 5 Pennies. It's available, I'm sure, on Amazon. But he talks about the franchise process being of 4 phases. The strategic planning, where you're doing, the budgeting and the financial projections, looking at your systems and your network and your support. Then it moves into the franchise formation, which is actually building the FDD and the legalities of what your franchise system is going to encompass, the fees, all of that. And then you're into the franchise launch and growth phase, where you're going to look at what is your strategy for growing, how do you want to grow, where do you want to grow first, your marketing dollars, PR, and then looking at development. Franchise development refers to sales. Are you going to sell yourself? Or are you going to bring in somebody else to sell? And then the phase 4 is when you really made it, is when you're onboarding and opening your first franchisee. And what does all of that look at? How are you going to hold your universities and plan to support a new franchisee through the entire onboarding process?
Sounds like a really neat resource. I'll have a link to that in our show notes so people can go click right to that for sure. Because that sounds, those 4 steps, really sounds like this planning, having these processes, and then that exciting time of when you bring your first person on. There's still a lot of work to do after that.
Yes. And in the formation, you're doing a lot of it in the formation, because that's when, you're really looking at the ops manual. And the franchise operations manual is different than a standalone ops manual, because there's so much legalese in franchising. So a lot of it's disclaimed in there, but the franchise operations manual is really the secret sauce of the business, and the training and, that goes along with that. And, it's exciting. I love being at the franchise universities, and I'll never miss the franchise grand opening, because it's such a milestone for everybody, for the franchisor and the franchisee. So it's a positive experience.
Are you a member of Pet Sitters International? PSI is the largest educational association for professional pet sitters and dog walkers, with a mission to promote pet sitting excellence through education. After the tumultuous past year, having the support of a strong community and direct access to educational resources and business tools is more important than ever before as we rebuild our businesses in 2021. PSI is here to help with a free monthly member toolkit, monthly bonus resources, online trainings, private member group, and more, combined with a group rate on insurance and background checks. PSI is our one-stop shop for everything you need for your pet sitting or dog walking business. As an educational association, PSI believes that if you know better, you'll do better, and invites you to join thousands of other like-minded professionals who are committed to offering the best possible pet care services and elevating our industry. If that sounds like you, visit petsit.com to learn more. Our listeners can save $15 off their first year membership by using the promo code PSC15 at checkout. What makes a good franchise? What makes one successful?
Yeah. So again, well-funded, clear communicators. Not everybody's a Cinderella story in franchising, like Massage Envy, Club Pilates. It doesn't happen overnight. So it's really the slow and steady is going to win the race in franchising. And you need to be able to support that growth over time. So having a good strategic plan on how you're going to achieve that, being well-funded, being super supportive, having a really strong support network for the franchisees, and investing in training. I think where a lot of people, franchisors, at least I coach, is the franchisors have a university, like McDonald's has a hamburger university. So, basically you sign the franchise agreement. That's the most exciting day for somebody. They just paid 35 to 40, maybe 50 grand on a new business idea. That's such an exciting day for them. The day of greatest uncertainty is the next day when they're like, now what do I do? So a good franchisor is going to have that plan nailed. They're going to have that pre-opening down. They're going to really invest in training to the extent that when you go to training as a franchisee, you're confident you're going to be able to go back and open your store tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or your business tomorrow. And I think that's where it has to, the relationship is so important. Consistent communication, consistent support, great tools, and all that comes from a well-funded organization.
Yeah.
You can't launch as a franchisor and be dependent on that 30, 40 grand coming in. That money is what you spend to get that location open. And the royalties are your revenue, but those aren't going to start coming until a few years down the line.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of personal onus if you're wanting to start this. Like, okay, like what am I up for coaching? Am I up for giving this guidance? Am I up for providing this support? Because if you're not, it doesn't sound like it's a good fit.
No, and if you're really busy running your own locations, you can't do it all. You just can't. Something's gonna fall. And discipline systems breed freedom. So you're really looking at your team.
Right.
Who are your key employees that are going to support you in both of these entities, your corporate flagship locations, and now this whole new entity that is franchising. And you have to franchising. The reason why they start a whole nother corporation usually is because the initial deposit is audited on an annual basis, or your books are audited on an annual basis by a CPA every time you have to renew your franchise disclosure document. So people will tend to just open a new entity. They'll fund it as they're going through the franchise disclosure approval process. And it just makes it really clean, because if you've had a pet sitting business for 9 years and now you want to franchise it, and they're going to want to go through all your books, or better scenario, you have a brand that you want to sell things to your franchisees, a grooming shampoo, something like that. You want to be able to make money on that in the franchise network. So you're going to have a corporate entity that holds your flagship locations and everything else you have going on. And then you'll have the franchise entity that just basically receives income from franchise fees and royalties.
To then go back and investing that back into running and operating and guiding and training those locations.
And it's not to say that you're not going to steal from Peter to pay Paul. If you have really successful corporate locations, they'll probably be funding the franchise at some point,
Sure.
But that's why, CPA is on that team as well.
So I'm thinking about this, who should be considering a franchise over a new location or something?
So I would say a business that is already duplicating what they've done with great success. So they have proof of concept. So if they're a pet sitter and they're running 3 regions that are like a standalone region, whatever you want to call them, territories are running as a standalone region, they would be in a good position to start to evaluate a franchise offering. And franchising isn't just to take you nationally. You really want to have a strategic growth plan that kind of keeps you close to your area, because you kind of think of like a hub and spoke model where you can pull your resources even between your corporate locations and your franchise locations. You should still have a centralized marketing that's supporting everything else going outwards. So you don't want to be in California and open your first pet sitting franchise in Chicago. It's not a market that and well, now you can't even travel there. Well, maybe we can now, but there's some limitations there.
Yeah.
So, first and foremost, you need to have that proof of concept. And I learned this the tough way. It's actually a restaurant that I supported. I came in after they were starting to franchise. 8 years in a B location with year-over-year growth in a restaurant. They had longevity, a phenomenal brand. They had so much going for them. But we were pulling in franchise sales leads from across the nation, internationally, people that owned multiple Subways and other big franchise brands, and they couldn't see the proof of concept. And we knew in an A location, the numbers would have even been better. But at the end of the day, they had to stop franchising just to open that second location and take a step back from it. So, like I said, it's heavily regulated. There's 31 states that don't require registration of the FDD. There's 14 states that do. California is one of them. It's very difficult to get franchise approval in California. New York is really tough, Washington State and DC. Some of those states will mandate that if you're not well funded, that the initial franchise fee goes into an escrow account until the business is open.
Wow.
That's holding up all the capital that you need to get them open.
Yeah.
So, having a really strong franchise attorney that's well connected in your state is hopefully in your state. I mean, there's a lot of them that work nationally. I have a great referral list if anybody needs it. And they'll provide a consultation on the legalities of it. But it's highly regulated. You're renewing every year. It's full disclosure. So your finances are disclosed. Any lawsuits are disclosed. All of that. It's a contractual relationship.
Yeah, it sounds like something to enter in with, open eyes and open, ideas of the possibilities. If you already have that second, third, fourth location that you have repeated success at, or you have your systems in place, sounds like you really need to get those systems written down in place, that manual done, and then start looking around and going,
Yes.
okay, is this something I could hand off to somebody else and have them implement this if they and take it somewhere else beyond that.
Yeah, and I think people have to be really careful because we all have that person. Oh my God, I love what you do. I want to do what you do. Can I do what you do? Where you do it? Basically,
Yeah.
and so you get this kind of interest, and you come to the table thinking, oh, I already have 5 people that want my business. Yeah. But one of the problems that I had initially when I pitched my hotel idea to my husband was, where are we going to get that kind of money for the initial investment? Because I had done the initial investment just like I would for a franchise. So, you're considering initial investment in franchising is considering 3 months of operational expenses, all of the build out if it's a brick and mortar, all of the training, insurance, every fee that you could imagine for initial purchases is included in there. So you're going aggressive on it. You hope to open it for less, but again, you don't want to come in underfunded.
Yeah, be well funded, have a good plan. Sounds like 2 best things that you could do to get on the good path.
Yeah, and I think the people that come up and show interest aren't fully understanding all that you've invested. Because you could say, oh yeah, I started this business for under 10 grand, 20 grand. But now you've been running it for 9 years. Your investment's been a lot more than that over time. And you've had a commitment to marketing. And that's why there's so many ways when I coach businesses that don't want a franchise, so many ways to get it to run like a franchise. So that every month you're going to dedicate 3% of your gross revenues towards marketing. And then this is your marketing plan. So there's so much planning and detail that goes into it, but that's how it can operate in other locations with the same sort of consistency that people look for in a franchise, like McDonald's, Subway. The look and feel every time you go into a franchise location. Even our doggy daycares that are national, exactly what you're going to see when you go in there and what you're going to expect in terms of customer service.
This has been a fascinating conversation, Carmen. I have loved hearing all about the world of franchising and breaking down some of these misconceptions and some notions that people may have, and to see if it could possibly be a good fit for them, and to hear how Slinky Cat is panning out, and the wonderful world of getting to work with your daughter and pass something on to her for the future. I know we've covered so much in so little time. So there's a whole lot more. So how can people get connected and follow along with everything that you've got going on?
Yeah, so I so appreciate the opportunity, Colin. Thank you so much. And I know that I put a lot out there. So I want to make it easy for anybody to reach out to me regarding franchising or cats. So simply text franchise to 619-865-9476. And I'll shoot you my Echo Growth Strategies website. And anybody that would like to have a franchise conversation and mentions they heard it on the podcast, I'll give them a 20-minute consultation to kind of figure out where they're at and what some good next steps might be. If you want to talk cats and operations in general, then just text meow to 619-865-9476.
I love that. I love that so much. Thank you for that. And we'll put links to those numbers in the show notes and on our website so people can click right on those and get connected with you. So, Carmen, this has been a real joy, a real pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I sure appreciate it. Take care.
We all want growth and security in our business, and that's going to look different for everybody. So, determining if you should franchise depends on how you want to run your business ultimately. How much control do you want? What do you want your days to be spent doing? Carmen did a great job of breaking down not just the financial and the legal obligations that you have if you go down the path of franchising, but also the importance of coaching, of mentoring, of selling the franchise and being still involved in the business and willing to put in that work and help others realize their potential in running that side of the business as well. If you've ever thought about franchising or going into a franchise operation with somebody else, we'd love to hear from you and what your experience has been. You can email us at feedback@petsitterconfessional.com. We're on Facebook, Instagram, all over the place at Petsitter Confessional. And we'd love it if you could call us. That way we could play that voicemail on the show. You can call us at 636-364-8260. Still had to look that up because I don't have it memorized yet. We want to thank our sponsors, Time to Pet and Pet Sitters International, for making today's show possible. We hope you have a wonderful rest of the week, and we'll be back again on Monday.